Good afternoon, dear students. I am your biology teacher, Mr. Collins. I'm glad to have you once more on this online platform. And today we'll be looking on the lesson Introduction to Kingdom Animalia. If your memory serves you right, you'll remember that we've done Kingdom Prokaryote, where we treated bacteria. We've done Kingdom Protoctista, where we treated amoeba and we treated spirogyra, and we've done Kingdom Fungi, where we treated the bread mold. And now we want to go into Kingdom Animalia. And what is Kingdom Animalia? Why do we refer to this kingdom as Kingdom Animalia? As the name signifies, it just simply means a kingdom made up of animals, or in other words, a group made up of principally animals. Now, this Kingdom Animalia refers to mostly multicellular organisms. That means organisms that have more than one cell, and also these organisms, they are heterotrophic. That simply means that they cannot manufacture their own food. They depend on already made food for their survival. Now, the Kingdom Animalia is divided into two subkingdoms. You have the vertebrates and then you have the non-vertebrates. Now, what do we mean by vertebrate animals? So, in other words, I'm trying to say the Kingdom Animalia is divided into vertebrate animals and non-vertebrate animals. So, we'll start with vertebrate animals, but in simple terms, they just call them vertebrates. Vertebrates are just simply animals or organisms that have a backbone. A backbone is the bone which lies at the middle of your back. If you can just stretch your hand a little to the back, you will touch a bone, and this bone stretches from your neck right down to the lower parts of your back. That bone is called the backbone, or they call it the vertebrae. That's why all organisms having that bone, we call those organisms vertebrates. So these are organisms with backbone. So they can ask you that what's the meaning of vertebrates? Vertebrates just simply means organisms or animals with backbone or with a vertebrae. Vertebrates are organisms having a vertebrae or having a backbone. Now you also have, and these organisms, they fall under one phylum, and that phylum is called phylum Chordata. And under the phylum Chordata is divided into several classes, principally about 5 classes. You have the class Ostectes. That has to do with this class contains principally fishes. So under this class you'll find fishes. Fishes are grouped under this class. Then especially the bony fish. Then you also have the class Amphibia. Under this class you have the frog, you have the toots. Then you also have the class Reptilia. Under this class, you have reptiles like the lizard, the snakes. Then you also have class Aves. And under this class, the organisms that are there are principally birds. Then you also have the class Mammalia. Under class Mammalia, you now have humans and some 4-footed animals, like the lion, the goats, and all that. So these are mammals, and all these classes that I have named like that, all the organisms inside these classes, they all have a backbone. So we call them all vertebrates. And remember, they fall under one phylum called Chordata. So this is it. So remember, you have vertebrates. They belong to one phylum called Chordata, and the phylum Chordata is divided into 5 classes, and each of these classes are made up of specific organisms. You have class Ostectes, where you have the bony fish. You have class Amphibia, where you have the amphibians like toads and frogs. You have class Reptilia, where you have the reptiles like snakes and lizards. You also have the class Aves, which where you have the birds, and then you have the class Mammalia, where you have the humans and all the four-footed animals. Now let's look at the non-vertebrates. Remember, I told you that kingdom Animalia is divided into two sub-kingdoms, vertebrates and non-vertebrates. We have talked about vertebrates. Now we should talk about non-vertebrates. Non-vertebrates just refer to organisms that do not have a backbone or that do not have a vertebrae. And these organisms are grouped into six phyla. Phyla means many phylums, is the plural of phylum. The plural of phylum is phyla. So you have six phyla. The first phyla is the first phylum is the phylum Arthropoda. Under the phylum Arthropoda, it's a phylum made up of organisms having an exoskeleton. An exoskeleton is the crunchy. You see some crunchy structure found in insects, crunchy found in insects like cockroach. Their skin, that structure that covers their skin is what we call the exoskeleton. You can find it in most insects like cockroaches, ants, and so on. So that's all such animals having that kind of skin, we group them under the phylum Arthropoda. So you also have the phylum Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes are flatworms. So all flatworms are grouped under the phylum Platyhelminthes. They are also non-vertebrates. You also have the phylum Nematoda. Phylum Nematoda is where roundworms are found. Then you also have the phylum Annelida. Phylum Annelida is where the segmented worms are found. Then you also have the phylum Mollusca. Phylum Mollusca is where you find organisms that have foot, like the snails. That foot that the snails use to crawl is called the visceral hump, and any organism that has that kind of foot, we group them under the phylum Mollusca. Then you also have the phylum Echinodermata. Here you can find organisms that have a radial symmetry. So all these phyla that I've just named, they represent organisms that do not have a backbone or a vertebrae. Now, we have just talked about the vertebrates and the non-vertebrates. Now we are going to start treating in this for our level and looking at our syllables. We'll only focus on the vertebrates. We'll not focus on non-vertebrates. If you remember very well, when you people were in Form 2, they treated the non-vertebrates with you. They treated the arthropods with you people. So we are not going to go into that. We are going to focus more on the vertebrates. And remember, under the vertebrates, we treated, I listed some classes to you. Class Ostectes, class Reptilia, class Amphibia, class Aves, and class Mammalia. Good. So now we are going to take them one after another. We'll start with class Ostectes. Now this class Ostectes has to do with fishes, just as I said. And under class Ostectes, we'll be focusing principally on the bony fish, the bony fish, the bony fish. So, good. Now, somebody may say, why do we call it bony fish? Just as the name implies, is because the fish is full of real made up of hard bones. Yes, and that's what most of you have been eating so much. You have been eating it a lot. Those of you who know about bar, when you go to the market to buy bar fish, that bar fish is what we mean by bony fish. And if you go to those joints where they roast fishes, you discover that you find a bar fish there. It simply has a kind is somehow a little bit round and so on. Well, I'm going to show you the structure of a barfish as or a bony fish. The real name is bony fish, but when you go to the market, the commercial name is barfish here in Cameroon. I'm sure it can have some other names when you go out of Cameroon, but here in Cameroon, they call it the bar fish. Okay, good. So, that's what we'll be focusing, or that's the fish we'll be focusing on under the class Osteates.